I have a new sketchbook, and I want to draw a page based on the word witchcraft. Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. I teased you my new sketchbook 2 weeks ago, and there it is. It's a moleskine sketchbook, A4 format with 96 pages. If you want to know, the paper is 165 grams per square meters, which is thick, much thicker than my other sketchbooks anyway. I have already filled the first page on my own time, with stuff that went through my head without rhyme or reason. You have monsters, symbols, abstract stuff, anything really, and that's what I wanted this sketchbook for. I want to draw a lot of tiny doodles whenever I think about them, but I feel like my smaller moleskine pad had too much larger drawings to start with small ones now. It's counterintuitive, I know, but that's how I want to do it. On the other sketchbook, I can draw patterns over the whole page, but if I did that here, it would get really tiring. After a couple hours, I usually really want to stop making the same doodle. Sure, it would look awesome on a bigger page, but I don't think my wrist can take it. On the other hand, with this sketchbook I can do what you're seeing now, making small things until the whole page is filled. And the theme for this first page is witchcraft. The whole page will have objects that can be linked to witches and wizards. I'm talking brooms, obviously, but also crystals, strange bottles, books, bones, anything really. It's a mood board for witches essentially. And when most of the page is filled with objects, I will fill the rest with strange runes and writings just to tie it in nicely together. Since I've apparently begun to do that, let me show you my PhD thesis writing completion bar. That's where we are about now, about 60% done. It is still taking most of my time, but I know I'm doing good work, and honestly it feels good. I don't want to talk about my work for the entire video, so I will share only a recent anecdote. So in a PhD thesis for experimental work, as is mine, usually you start with the chapter about theory, all the principles that will apply to the experimental work, and the explanation of the physics that are in play. After that you have the results proper and the experimental work. So I've written half of the theory, and then I had a new idea on how to interpret data I measured. So I started looking at equations, and from one article to the next I ended up looking at a paper that was written by 2 Russian theoreticians in 1989. I had questions about it, and doubts about some parts, but it really was what I needed. Turns out, years ago, my supervisor had worked with one of the 2 authors from this 30+ years old article. He sent him an email, and the next day we hopped on a Zoom call with the guy. For more than an hour, we talked about his very old article. I explained my work, my point of view on his work, and he explained how they came to their results at the time. It ended up clarifying a lot of my questions, and the guy turned out to be very interested in my own work, asking me to send him my thesis when I was done with it. Most of all, I think he was really happy that someone would pick up his old calculations from 30 years ago and improve upon them. Turns out, for this particular case of physics, I have developed a framework that is completely new and probably the most accurate. So I'm happy with my work, since one of the guys who's had decades of experience approved of my theory. Anyway, enough about it. I'm sorry, it's basically all that's on my mind these days. This damn PhD thesis. It's hard to think about anything else. Let's go back to the page I'm drawing. First of all, do you like it so far? Sometimes it's really hard to tell what you enjoy as viewers, and so if you don't mind, I would love to see a comment with your thoughts on it. You can even ask me to draw something in particular. That would be fun. I feel really pumped about this new sketchbook. From the pages I've done so far, the combo of this book and my fountain pen works really well. And the ink. Let's not forget the ink. Before, I didn't really understand well how the quality of the ink impacted drawings. It's only recently, when one of my drawings fell from the wall and my bunny had a nibble on it, that I took a proper look and saw the influence of the ink. The drawing I had made with cheap ink cartridges, and with time it faded a bit and turned a bit pink even. And so I looked at a folder of old drawings, and sure enough, I could tell at a glance which I had made with good and bad ink. Time really affects the bad ink a lot. This ink I'm using is from the brand Cross, the same as the pen I'm using. I have to refill the pen every large doodle almost, but the ink flows really well, and it is black as, well, black as ink. It stays black when it dries, when cheap ink turns grayish. On the other hand, it's more fluid and it takes longer to dry, which can be bad for smudges if you're not careful. But this ink, this fountain pen with the medium nib, and this paper really feel good together. I have to say, the ink bleeds a tiny bit on the paper. The lines don't stay as crisp as I would like, because of the texture of the paper. However, they don't bleed through it. You can draw as much as you want, and the other side of the paper won't have ink spots. I'm fine with the lines not being that crisp. I have a digital tablet if I really want crisp lines. Here, I just want a paper that feels good to use, which is the most important thing. I like this style of small doodles. Having a page of them, like that, makes it look like a flash tattoo panel. It's the kind of thing you find on the walls of a tattoo parlor. For a tattoo though, I wouldn't necessarily have done hatching on the doodles, or at least on some of them. My hatching isn't that great, and sometimes it makes the doodle imprecise and dirty. But for the sake of having an overall coherence on page, I still did it. Like, the page as a whole has a certain ratio of black versus white, and leaving doodles unshaded breaks the balance, and that feels weird. Instead of tattoos, it also looks like a page of stickers. Maybe I should pick one or a few of them and make them into stickers? Would you be interested if I sold them? I have this idea, actually, of turning some of my digital art into bookmarks. I kinda want to open an online store and sell bookmarks, postcards and stickers. I'm sure I'll do that at some point, but I don't know when. Definitely not when I'm writing my thesis, but later on for sure. Anyway, I had a good time filling this page with Witchcraft elements. I don't think I've forgotten anything obvious. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe because I will make another page like this very soon. Some of the art I do doesn't end up on videos, so head over to Instagram at d3_sd to make sure you see it. I'm Detroit and I'll see you soon. Bye!